My hometown, I would say I had three different hometowns. So partly was in Columbus, Ohio, and it was as well in Cameroon and Nigeria. My parents were sort of visionaries. My parents were community organizers. They believed in giving back. So we traveled a lot. I did a lot of traveling with my father through newly independent countries in Western Africa where he gave his services as a geophysicist a lot of times for free. My mother was a nurse and eventually became a lawyer, and she would take on cases for people who couldn't afford it, who couldn't pay, and she would always receive gifts in kind. So I remember we had lots of chickens, we always had lots of goats, we had a lot of just produce that people would give to my mom because they could not afford to pay her for her services as a lawyer. So this was kind of my childhood, was the notion of giving back, the notion of empowering other people. As you feel empowered, you empower other people. And that's what I learned. And at 16, I went to Ohio State, just like my father had. And when I graduated, about 21 years after he graduated in 1991, I already was bitten by the bug, humanitarian bug, and I joined the Peace Corps.
How did these values help you to get involved in humanitarian work?
These values helped me get into humanitarian work because I saw the need to be able to give back on a larger scale. So after doing several years of working in San Francisco, I also got my MBA from San Francisco State. I decided that I wanted to be able to do more on a larger scale. I wanted to work in a different context and help people outside of the US. And so I went to Peru, where I worked as a global health fellow on sexual reproductive health, again with vulnerable Peruvian populations. And then eventually decided I wanted to help through UNHCR. So I joined UNHCR, where I was first posted as a livelihoods officer. Because at the end of the day, what I saw was that in working in developing countries was that there was a need to help people grow and get access to sustainable livelihoods. And for refugees, asylum seekers, that's really the crux of it, is if they can have access to a sustainable livelihood, dignified work, then they can contribute even more to the communities that take them in. They can pay rent, they can buy food. So things that we all look to do in our hometowns, that's what refugees and asylum seekers want to do. So I was a livelihoods officer for 5 years in the region, and then I went to the UNHCR office in Quito, Ecuador, where Ecuador at that point had, and I think still has, the largest number of Colombian refugees. And so I was also working on both building a team, but really looking at end goal of getting access to really sustainable livelihoods, especially for the most vulnerable. And then that brought me to my current position as head of a sub-office, which covers 3 offices in 2 of the most sort of complicated, interesting provinces in Colombia, which is Antioquia and Chocó. And I'm able to continue to work on strengthening access to solutions and livelihoods for even a much larger number of people. And at this point in time here, it's Venezuelans, and really targeting, looking at them for this post-COVID. As we get into the new normal, a lot of the Venezuelans, the vulnerable Venezuelans, have lost their livelihoods because of this lockdown. So it's interesting for me, and that really plays into my values and taps into my values to be able to help and empower the most vulnerable among us.